It all started on my birthday. I was excited, expecting something small but meaningful from the people I loved most. I got a gift box with my best friend's name on it. Inside, instead of something sweet or thoughtful, was a hotel receipt. Her name was on it. The room had been paid for with my husband's credit card. In that moment, something broke inside me, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled, because they had just handed me a weapon, and I knew exactly how I'd use it. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. And if you find yourself holding your breath or feeling that twist in your stomach like I did, don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Back to that day, they thought I didn't know, that I was just a clueless wife and a trusting friend, but I started watching closely. I didn't need spy cameras or secret recordings. I just paid attention. Their little lies didn't match. One would say they were busy, the other would say they were out of town. I remembered everything. I smiled through every gathering. I thanked them for their love and support while I quietly gathered my strength. They didn't know the house we lived in wasn't his to fight for. It was mine, passed down through a family trust. I went to my uncle, who's a lawyer, and we rewrote everything. I made sure that no matter what happened, he would walk away with nothing. But I let him spend money on new furniture and renovations first. Let him feel proud. Let him think he was building something. While I faked sadness, I was working. I was meeting with lawyers, moving money, and preparing every document. I didn't get mad. I got ready. And when the time was right, I didn't yell or accuse. I just sent one photo to our group of friends, a picture of the two of them kissing at a ski lodge, sent to me by someone who had no idea what was going on. I didn't say a word. I just left the chat. That was the beginning of the end for them, and the beginning of my peace. After I saw the hotel receipt in that gift box, I didn't say a word, not to him, not to her. They were laughing and pretending like everything was normal, and I played along. But inside, I was already planning. I knew if I exploded right then, they'd cover their tracks. I needed more. I needed proof that couldn't be denied, and I wanted to do it without them ever seeing it coming. Hi, thank you for listening to my story. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share. Your support means everything. It helps me keep sharing stories like this. I didn't use hidden cameras or hire a private investigator. I wanted something better, something quiet. I started by looking through phone bills, not the messages, just the call times. I noticed patterns, late-night calls that matched, days where both of them said they were too busy to meet, yet both their phones were silent at the same times. It was small, but it was enough to raise questions. Then I started talking to people, carefully. A friend who worked in HR helped me check the dates they both took vacation. They matched. My husband said he had a conference in Miami, and guess what? My best friend posted palm trees that same week, pretending she was in California. Different story, same sunlight. That was the moment I knew for sure. I didn't confront them. Instead, I reached out to a waiter from a restaurant they liked, someone I once tipped well. I asked if he remembered seeing them together. He did. They had dinner there a few times, always in the far corner booth. I smiled and thanked him. Then I called the hotel from the receipt. The concierge still remembered them too. A beautiful couple, he had said. I almost laughed. Everything they thought was hidden, I found through people they overlooked. People who remembered kindness. People who talked, if you asked the right way. I was slowly putting the puzzle together, piece by piece, and they had no idea. They still smiled at me, still lied to my face, and I let them, because I wasn't done yet. I wasn't just catching them. I was building something they couldn't escape from. After I confirmed what they were doing behind my back, I knew I couldn't explode. I couldn't storm out or confront them just yet. I had to be smart, so I changed the script. I became the sad, broken wife. I cried often, loudly enough for them to hear. I said I was feeling lost, confused, and deeply anxious. They believed it. Or maybe they just liked the idea of me being too weak to notice anything. I started telling both of them how thankful I was for their support. My husband would pat my back awkwardly and say I needed rest. My best friend would come over with tea and talk to me like I was fragile. I smiled on the inside every time. They thought they had all the power, but they didn't see what was happening in the background. While they pitied me, I went to work. Quietly, I met with my family's lawyer and changed the way our finances were set up. I moved savings out of joint accounts and into my name. I restructured some of our investments so he wouldn't have access to them anymore. Every little change was legal and carefully done. On paper, it just looked like basic money management, but really, I was cutting him off, piece by piece. Then I looked at the trust documents. The house we lived in wasn't fully his. It was part of a family inheritance that I had shared with him. But now, I made sure it was only mine. I updated the terms of the trust and removed his name completely. He didn't notice. He was too busy sneaking around and thinking I was too weak to understand what was happening. He even offered to help me manage things while I was feeling low. I let him. It only made him feel more in control. But every time he signed something I handed him without reading it, I was taking control back. By the time I was done playing the sad wife, I had full control of everything that mattered. They thought they had fooled me, but I had already started building the world where they'd lose it all. My husband always talked about how we were building a future together. He'd say things like, "This house is our biggest asset, and we've put so much into this place." I nodded along every time, pretending to agree. What he didn't know was that the house we lived in, the one he thought he partly owned, was never his to begin with. It was mine, passed down through a family trust before we even got married. His name was never on the title, and that wasn't going to change. At first, I didn't worry much about protecting the house, but after I found out what he and my best friend were doing behind my back, I knew I had to lock everything down, legally and completely. I called my uncle, who's also our family's estate lawyer. He helped me revise the trust documents. We made sure that no matter what happened, divorce, lawsuit, even if I died, my husband couldn't touch it. Not a penny, not a brick. The best part? I let him keep spending money on it. He insisted on upgrading the kitchen, replacing the floors, repainting the walls. Every new idea, every expense, he called an investment in our home. I smiled and said, "Of course, love." He paid for it all from his account. Thousands of dollars gone, all while I watched in silence. He'd proudly show off his renovations to our friends, talk about resale value. He had no idea that legally, he was pouring money into a property that wasn't even his, and I wasn't about to stop him. There was one night, after a long day of overseeing the new patio installation, that he sat next to me and said, "You know, this house is the best thing we've ever done together." I looked at him, smiled and said, "I couldn't agree more." Inside, I felt nothing, just cold, calm clarity. By the time I was finished with the legal side of things, every single document was in place. If he ever tried to fight me for the house, he'd lose instantly. And if he ever asked why, I'd just remind him, "You should have read the fine print." But of course, he never did. After everything I'd discovered, most people would expect me to hide away, to cry, to avoid everyone, to stay silent. But I did the opposite. I started inviting people over again, small gatherings at first. Dinner with close friends, casual weekend brunches, little celebrations here and there. I smiled through all of it, calm, composed, never giving anything away. I wanted them both to feel like they were safe, that I still didn't know. They came, of course. My husband and my best friend. They acted normal, maybe even too normal. He'd kiss my cheek. She'd bring wine. They sat across the table like nothing was wrong, like they weren't lying to my face every single day. But I wasn't there to play hostess. I was there to plant seeds. I never accused them directly. That would have made things too obvious. Instead, I started asking small, confusing questions, just loud enough for others to hear. "Didn't Emily say she was in Aspen last month?" I'd ask casually, stirring my tea. "Oh wait, babe, you were in Aspen too, weren't you?" My husband would pause, then quickly nod, saying something vague. Emily would jump in with a laugh and say it was just a quick getaway. I'd nod like I believed them, but I could see the shift in the room. Our friends started noticing, the sideways glances, the little awkward pauses. At another dinner, I asked him, "Weren't you at that conference in Miami the same weekend Emily posted that pool picture?" He froze for half a second. It was subtle, but enough. One of our friends raised an eyebrow. No one said anything, but the silence said it all. I kept doing this, just enough to create quiet doubt. I knew our friends well. They weren't nosy, but they were smart. They'd put the pieces together eventually, without me needing to explain a thing. What mattered was that the image they had carefully built, the perfect couple helping their poor, struggling friend, was starting to crack. Not because I made a scene, but because I used their lies against them. Softly, publicly, repeatedly. They had counted on me to disappear quietly, to fall apart. Instead, I made sure everyone saw what was really happening. I didn't scream or expose them. I just let them expose themselves, one confused answer at a time. There was one thing my husband didn't know. My family was wealthy. and I was set to inherit a large sum soon. He had always been careful around my parents, acting polite and respectful. He probably thought that money would one day be his too, through me. But after I discovered what he was doing behind my back, I decided to make sure that would never happen. I didn't go to my mother with the full truth. I didn't say his name, and I didn't mention my best friend either. I simply told her I had concerns. I said I wanted to protect the family wealth in case things went wrong. She listened quietly, then asked a few careful questions. My mother is a smart woman. She didn't need me to say it out loud to understand what was going on. Within a week, her lawyer updated her will. They added what she called a moral conduct clause. In simple terms, it meant that if my husband was ever unfaithful or caused public embarrassment to the family, he would be cut out of everything tied to me, completely. He wouldn't be able to touch my inheritance. Not now, not later. But we didn't stop there. My mother also suggested we revise the prenup, for tax reasons. Something that sounded boring enough to keep him uninterested. I handed him the updated papers over dinner one night. He barely looked at them, just asked, "Do I need to read all this?" I smiled and said, "It's just legal stuff for the accountant." He signed it with no questions asked. What he didn't know was that the new agreement clearly protected my assets, both current and future. It stated that infidelity would void any claims he had to financial support or shared property. He thought he was still in control, thought I was still clueless. But by then, I had locked every door behind him without him noticing. If he ever tried to come after what I had, he'd be shut out by my mother's will, by the new prenup, and by his own signature. All legal, all final, all done while he smiled and kissed me goodnight, thinking everything was fine. I had spent weeks watching them lie to my face, pretending nothing was wrong, acting like they were still my husband and my best friend, but I never let them see how much I knew. I kept smiling, kept playing the part, all while slowly, carefully building my quiet revenge. And when the time came to expose them, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry or scream. I let a single photo do all the work for me. A friend of mine, who didn't know anything about the situation, had gone on a ski trip and just happened to spot them, my husband and my best friend, together at the lodge. They weren't just chatting. They weren't just sitting close. They were kissing, arms around each other, no shame, out in the open. That friend took a picture because she thought it was cute. She had no idea what she was actually sending me, but it was exactly what I needed. I saved that photo and said nothing for a few days. I waited until we were in a group chat with a few close friends we had shared for years. Then one evening, while sitting in bed, I calmly opened the chat, uploaded the photo, and hit send. No caption, no warning, just the truth. The picture showed them so clearly, his hand on her waist, her fingers in his hair, snow all around them. It didn't need any explanation. And before anyone could reply or ask questions, I quietly exited the group chat. I didn't answer texts after that. I didn't pick up calls. I let them deal with the fallout on their own. What could they even say? That it was a mistake? That it was taken out of context? Everyone saw it for what it was. Proof of betrayal, proof of lies. And I didn't have to say a single word. That silence, my silence, was louder than anything I could have shouted. It made them look guilty without giving them a chance to twist the story. They were left to clean up the mess, while I moved forward knowing I'd exposed them with calm, quiet precision. And best of all, they never saw it coming. While they were sneaking around and pretending to be clever, I was preparing in silence. I wasn't just planning an exit, I was setting up a full legal checkmate. Every move I made, every signature I collected, was part of a larger strategy they couldn't see. They thought I was hurt, broken, and blind, but I was just getting started. I had already adjusted our finances, locked down the house, and changed the inheritance terms. But that wasn't enough. I wanted everything to be airtight. So I met with my lawyer and drafted a post-nup agreement. It clearly protected all my personal assets and removed any future claims he might try to make. We filed it quietly, wrapped in routine paperwork, and again, he signed it without reading, just like he signed the prenup revision. I also separated all financial ties between us. No shared accounts, no shared investments. Anything he had access to before was now under my sole name. I made sure every document was filed properly, time-stamped, and ready to be used if needed. He had no idea that by the time I was ready to walk away, he'd be walking into a legal trap of his own. But I didn't stop with him. While pretending to be my friend, she'd been running her mouth to our circle, spreading lies about me, saying I was unstable, unwell, even that I had cheated first. I never responded. I just kept notes, and I spoke to the people she told. 3 of them agreed to sign affidavit, sworn legal statements confirming the false things she had said about me. So when I served him with the divorce papers, she got her own surprise, a lawsuit. I filed for defamation and slander. The evidence was clear, and I had the witnesses ready to testify. They both looked shocked, confused, like the world had flipped upside down. But I hadn't done anything illegal. I'd simply used the law to protect myself and expose them. This wasn't revenge. It was justice, cold, calm, and professional. Everything had been done quietly, without threats or drama. And the best part? There was nothing they could do to undo it. Every paper was signed, every protection already in place. They played games behind my back. I played chess right in front of them. When it was all done, when the divorce was filed and the lawsuit delivered, I didn't scream, curse, or destroy anything. I just stepped back, quietly, and that was enough. Because what they didn't realize, even after everything, was that their success, their image, their place in the world, it had all been tied to me. My husband had always liked to act important. He loved walking into a room and being introduced as the man who knew people. But what most of those people didn't know was that I was the one who opened those doors for him. I made the introductions, set up the meeting, gave quiet recommendations to clients and colleagues behind the scenes. Every connection he bragged about, I had built them for him. So after I walked away, I just let the truth breathe. I didn't have to start any rumors. I simply stopped vouching for him. When people asked if I could still support his business, I said I no longer had any connection to it. When they asked why, I just smiled and said, we went separate ways. That was all it took. The silence spoke louder than anything else. Soon, people pulled back. His partnerships faded. Clients moved on. Without me smoothing things over, without me helping him behind the scenes, he had nothing to stand on. His confidence crumbled with his reputation. And her? She owned a small business that relied heavily on her image. Polished, professional, trustworthy. Her clients loved the idea of her being a woman of integrity. But once the photo came out and people started connecting the dots, things changed. I never told anyone to cancel her. I never even spoke badly about her. I just stopped defending her character like I always had. I let the facts speak. Clients dropped her quietly. Sponsors pulled away. She went from posting brand deals and happy quotes to silence. The most satisfying part, I didn't lay a single hand on their careers. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight. I just removed my support. The same support they never even noticed was holding them up. Turns out, without me, they weren't important. They weren't even respected. They were just exposed. And they did the rest of the damage themselves. Now I live alone in the same house he once tried to claim as his own. The floors he paid for, the kitchen he proudly renovated, it's all still here. But now, it's peaceful, quiet, mine. I don't date. I don't scroll through apps or wonder what comes next. I'm not searching for closure, because I don't need it. I've already closed that chapter, not with anger, but with clarity. Some nights, I sit on the porch with a glass of wine, listening to the breeze, watching the sunset paint the sky. No noise, no lies, just me. People ask if I hate them for what they did, for how they broke my trust. The truth is, I don't. Hatred would mean they still take up space in my heart, but they don't. They're just gone, like a storm that passed and left the ground cleaner afterward. But forgiveness, I'll never forgive the way they looked at me like I was small, like I wouldn't notice, like I'd never fight back. That's what stayed with me, not the betrayal, but their quiet confidence that I'd never do anything about it. They thought they had all the power. They thought I was weak. They forgot who I was. Now I live with peace, not revenge. I don't need anyone to fall. I just needed to rise. And I did, in my own way, on my own terms. What about you? Was I too calm? Or did they deserve everything that happened after what they did to me? Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't miss the next video. Make sure to follow and turn on notifications so you're always the first to hear what happens next.